don't know how many people will know this, but as a New Jersey kid, you don't go to Disneyland, you go to Six Flags. So, growing up, next to Skull Mountain, there was this whole section for the Wiggles. That's about it. Look, I remember them as a kid, sort of as in like, oh yeah, I watched this as a kid. Sort of Dora the Explorer. What happened in that show again? Well, I remember always hating Teletubbies even as a kid, so I know my brain was working somewhat. There are many things as... Sure, it's not shows just as a kid. It's when you're like a preschool or kindergarten. Where, sure, you're a toddler and you go, oh yeah, I still look back fondly on stuff like Sesame Street, Blue's Clues, or even Thomas the Tank Engine. That, sure, have I watched any of these shows in more than a decade? Hell, even like, let's see, 15 years? 12? Whatever. Look, since they were such a big part of my childhood, and looking back might have been why I am the person I am today, since I might not have watched these things in years, one day when I have kids, I can imagine myself, I'll show them this, and I'll shed a tear when it comes full circle, because I know this is how I grew up to be the kind of person I'm glad I am, and, you know, I can be thankful for that. The Wiggles! I remember nothing about them growing up. I just saw this documentary on Amazon Prime, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Wiggles! I haven't thought about them in years. I didn't even know they were still around. But now that I know they are still around, and Australian, which I'll add them to the stereotypes of Australia things, like kangaroos, koalas, boomerang, Crash Bandicoot, and maybe like 3 actors I know off the top of my head. I've honestly gotten a lot into Australian people lately with Skill Up on this weekly video game series and the Caravan of Garbage YouTube channel. With that said, when this movie started off with adults at the concert of the show, I did have my eyes roll a bit, like, But by the end, it did touch me how sweet it was with this, you know, kids band, the impact they had. Like, I remember none of the songs, but hearing how these 4 adults who were semi-successful musicians, though decided to be preschool teachers when that didn't take off, took both of their passions together to create this preschool band that helped kids be happy and joyful during such hard times, did put a smile on my face. I did look up their song when they were like a normal band called the Cockroaches, and it's not bad. They are actually talented musicians. I mean, if they actually sang badly, I'm sure the, you know, people wouldn't have tolerated it. But with that being said, there's this understanding of what the kids like and what they think, so it makes me really intrigued to hear the story. I legit felt each of these people are real nice guys who just want to make kids happy, and all the interviews are separate, so each and every single person gets to tell their side of the story. Or, well, not really their side of the story, tell the same story. It's never really like, oh, well, actually this happened. It's like, this is our fault when things are wrong. It's a really wholesome and sweet story about, you know, just trying to find happiness during hard times, because by the end, it did bring me tears about just, you know, these people who, you know, it's about the hardships of life. You know, each of these people went through it, whether it be out of their control or just, you know, because that's how life goes. They realize, and maybe me as well, I realized the impact they had on others. And if you want to watch something to restore your faith in humanity, well, okay, there's better options. But it honestly was just a really sweet story that made me go, huh, I never really thought of it like that. Or, wow, I never realized the impact they had. And, you know, these are just good people who just want to make people happy despite their own problems. I think this is one of those stories you need to watch because of it. I can't say this would work for everyone that way. It is a standard documentary, but the story and the words they say meant a lot to me, and I'm glad I watched it. I give Hot Potato, The Story of the Wiggles, an 8 out of 10. Okay, next we're talking about Nerdy Prudes Must Die, which this may not be a movie, but a filmed version of a musical stage show. But since I'll never get to talk about this at any other time, I'll talk about it since Nerdy Prudes Must Die is brilliant. I really liked it. It's a really damn good horror musical comedy slash or whatever. Made by StarKid, who are most known for the musical parodies of Aladdin, Harry Potter, and Batman, and so forth. I honestly really get into their more original shows, which are still satires, but good satires, like Firestarter and The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals. Which, this being a third in this horror comedy trilogy, I didn't see Black Friday yet. I didn't really know what they were going to do, but this movie works for what it's supposed to be. The premise is that at Hatchedfield High, the nerds are constantly teasing all the time due to the power of football star Max Jägerman, played by Will Branner, so when their plan for payback accident leads to a step, his angry spirit comes back to take them out one by one. It takes a good while before, you know, his death happens. So we spend a lot of time with these characters who are exaggerated but still likable. Like the best friends to the lead aren't just into nerdy things. They are legit tools who do say stupid, gross things that I'm like, you know, if I were a lesser man, I would tell them to go F themselves too. And my favorite performance came from someone that took a while for me to go, do I know this person? Oh yeah, she's from Smosh. Angela Giarratana. Yeah, Angela Giarratana. Anyways, she signs at Grace Chastity. Funny name. The religious and biggest prude, which Max makes an exception on bullying her since, and this is actually a really clever idea. Because of like porns he watches where it's like you have the meek person who's actually sexy underneath all the clothing they hide behind. He thinks that she's actually the sexiest person at the school. Man, I love this writing, and her breakdown hypocritical attitude as the movie goes on is great. This is hilarious, creative, and downright fun. I wouldn't say it's actually scary, but it's a parody of these types of movies. I mean, Max Jägerman is far from the first jock stereotype to be made fun of this way. I don't know what happened in Scott Tuckerson, John Tucker Must Die. I think that was the name of the movie. Whatever. But this movie had a great cast and catchy music. I was never bored and I had fun the whole time. Some jokes or songs didn't land for me, but I should make clear I thought this was great and I had a really good time. I give Nerdy Prudes Must Die an A out